Today, I am going to show you how I like to create Sci-Fi Braams using Serum. Now, in case you don't know, Serum is a useful, versatile wavetable synthesizer. And in this tutorial, I'll walk you through how I use a trailer hit as the foundation to design a cinematic Braam. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is open up Serum in our DAW, and we want to go ahead and go to Menu and then Initialize Preset. And this basically just puts everything back in Serum to default mode. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is we want to choose a sample. And like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be using a trailer hit. So let's go ahead and grab that trailer hit sample. And what we want to do is drag it onto oscillator A where it says FFT256. It basically takes the audio sample that you drop in and it converts it into usable wavetables. Alright, and the next thing that we want to do is go ahead and open up our wavetable editor. And by doing that is by clicking this little pencil icon that you see right here. Now, if you go to the bottom and you start to scroll, you start to notice all these little squares. And all these little squares contain what's called mini wavetables. What happened was when we dropped in our impact sample, Serum generated it into little mini wavetables. And that's what you're looking at down here. So next what we want to do is look for 5 to 8 tonal transients, ones that visually stick out to you. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll and select about, 5 to 8 that I want to keep. And since I know we're creating a Braam, I want to start with ones that have low transients and then start to increase. So I really like this one. So what we want to do is get rid of everything before this square. To do that, I want to click on the square before this one, which is this one right here. I want to go up here to add and select remove beginning selected. And now I want my last wavetable to be this one right here. So I'm going to go ahead and select the one after that, go up here to add and remove, and now I'm going to select remove selected to end. And as you can see, I'm left with the ones that I wanted to keep. Alright, so now what you want to do is you want to go up to process. You want to normalize each gain separately. You want to remove DC offset, and then you want to go into morph and select morph spectral zero fundamental phase. And just a quick explanation of what we just did here. When we selected normalize the gain, we basically evened out the wavetables. Then when we removed the DC offset, it centered the waveforms. And then the spectral zero fundamental phase, this keeps the harmonics of our wavetable aligned to the root pitch. Alright, now that we're back at our main page of our oscillator here in Serum, I just want to quickly point out that this wavetable, there's 2 different ways you can view it. Just by clicking on it back and forth, it just basically shows you 2 different visual representations of that sample that we dropped in. Alright, so what we want to do first is go to oscillator A where it says octaves and drop it -2. So we're dropping it 2 octaves. Then we're going to select LFO1. I'm just going to mess with the shape just a little bit. Let's give it a little bend, a little curve. And I'm going to go ahead and grab LFO1, drag and drop it onto the wavetable position knob right here for oscillator A. Next, I'm going to make sure envelope is highlighted and that the rate knob is set to, we can do 1 bar, but let's do 2 bars. Next, we want to copy LFO1 onto LFO2. So we go ahead, option click, and drag it to LFO2. Now for LFO2, since it's a Braam, and we know Braams, they start low and they rise, we want that to be represented visually as well. So what we're going to do is create a shape like this. Next, we're going to go to oscillator A to our warp knob over here, and we'll see where it says off. You're going to click on that and you're going to select bend plus minus. We're going to select LFO2 and we're going to go ahead and drag and drop that onto that warp knob. I'm going to go ahead and play a little something just so you can hear what we have so far, but let me make sure that we turn it down a little bit so I don't blow your eardrums. Nice. Alright, so next what we're going to do is we're going to go into our effects tab and we're going to add some dimension, some reverb, some distortion, some compression, some EQ, and some filter. So let's start with our distortion here. And I'm going to be playing some sounds as I'm tweaking the knobs for the effects over here. some delay. Some reverb. Nice. Next, I want to add some compression here. What I like to do sometimes is take some of these LFOs and drag and drop them onto these knobs. You'll be surprised with some of the cool tones and characteristics that you get. I'm going to go ahead and grab LFO2, drag and drop it onto the gain knob. Cool. Next, I'm going to do some EQ just to tame some of those high-end frequencies. And lastly, let's add a filter here. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab LFO2, drag and drop it on the cutoff knob. All right, so once we're happy with our results, one thing that I like to do is hit record while I'm holding down a note or a couple notes. At the same time, I'm tweaking Serum's wavetable knobs, the warp knobs, the LFO shape. This technique is effective because it gives you multiple Braam variations in one pass, which to me is a faster process for, building your own library of Braams if that's something that you wanted to do. So after playing a couple of notes, I found this really cool Braam that I really liked, and I just bounced it in place. Let me go ahead and play that for you real quick. Next, what I like to do is push it further and do more post-processing. So the first thing I'm going to do here is mess around with the EQ a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and cut some low end off. And the next one I'm going to do is I'm going to use Black Hole. It's this really great reverb plugin by Eventide. And let me go ahead and play that so you can hear what that sounds like. Next, I'm going to bounce that in place so we can do some more processing. So we're going to throw some OTT on top. I already had this set up earlier since this is one of my sound design templates. So I have the downward compression at 35% and the depth at 36. Next, I add some saturation. I like to choose the E style here. And for the tone, I just made it a little bit darker and then just pushed the drive up just a little bit. Now, one of my favorite tools that I love to use when it comes to doing sound design is using Guitar Rig. You'd be surprised by all the really cool sounds that you can get by using some of these presets that Guitar Rig offers. For example, I'm going to try out some of these presets so you can hear what it does to the Braam that we created. Like you can see, you can get some pretty nice sounds and also some wild sounds as well. I really like that one. I'm bring down the gain just a little bit. That's cool, and I like that one. Again, you can go through all these presets and you'd be surprised just how many different types of sounds that you can get. Since Guitar Rig brought up a lot of that low end, I'm not gonna add R bass, but sometimes I do add some R bass to bring up that low end. And then a lot of the times when I do sound design, I love adding width to my sound. So I use Sidewinder by Joey Sturgis. So that's how I create Sci-Fi Braams using Serum. And of course with some creative processing along the way, some post-processing. You know, I do want to say one thing. Don't be afraid to experiment, because that's where the most unique sounds come from. As you notice, when I pulled up Guitar Rig 6, I was going through presets and you can hear all the various types of sounds that you can get just by experimenting, right? When I had Serum up, as I was recording different variations, I was tweaking the wavetable knobs, the warp knobs, I was messing with the LFO shapes. It's always a good thing to experiment because, like I said, you can get some really, really creative, unique sounds out of it. Alright, so thanks so much for watching. If you'd like to see different breakdowns for cinematic sound design elements like drones, hits, risers, or whooshes, please let me know in the comments down below. Thanks again, stay creative, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.